Hey everyone, it's your host Marcus Norman of the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we are interviewing a very special guest. This gentleman, I was so happy when I found him. This man is in business and he is one of the core principal industry makers. He's an African American man. And so I'm really happy because this is profound. You don't see too many gentlemen sharing insights and wisdom. He even wrote the book, y'all. And we are going to be talking about he is a 22-year H&R Block franchisee owner. And he's here to share insights, some wisdom, some legacy tips, and share his experience over 22 years of running a successful franchise ownership and helping families, helping businesses, helping everyone, you, me, get to a better place financially. And it's not just taxes, it goes deeper. And here it is, the man, the myth, the legend, here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We are going to spill some tea today. So help me welcome to the stage the incredible Mr. Chris Wilson.
Hey, Marcus. Glad
Yes,
to
sir.
be here. Thanks for having me.
Glad you are here, brother. Thank you for being here and making time and sharing space with us. This
Absolutely.
is phenomenal. I wanted to start things off, sir, because 22 years, that's a half a lifetime, not a full, not a full lifetime.
Yeah.
But that's a long time to be doing something professionally and at a high level. You have an incredible mind and your resume is extensive. You could have done anything. I wanted to ask why franchising and then why H&R Block specifically that got you to where you are today.
Okay, that's a great question. I am a graduate of Winston-Salem State University, HBCU, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Uh, and I graduated with a degree in business and accounting, and I took my first job out in Lexington, Kentucky, um, working for an oil company. And I was there for like 3 years, and then I moved to Evansville, Indiana. Was there for 3 years working for Bristol Myers. Well, it was Bristol Mead Johnson at the time, and now Bristol Myers Squibb. And started my family, and I wanted to get back to North Carolina. I didn't realize how much I would miss the beaches and the mountains by being in the Midwest. But I made it back to North Carolina, and I went to work for a pharmaceutical company by the name of GlaxoSmithKline, and started out there. I was there for about 14 years, and um, they were doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and then along came a package, and I decided to take a package
Mm.
and use that as a bridge to buying my first H&R Block franchise. Now, why I chose H&R Block back in 2002, 2003, 2004, um, I actually purchased it in '03, and I left corporate America in '04. And I chose H&R Block because at the time they had just acquired Oldie Brokerage Firm.
Mm.
And Oldie Brokerage Firm, they took Oldie Brokerage Firm with the idea and converted it to H&R Block Financial Advisory. And that was appealing to me because I really was interested in financial planning, but I didn't want to start from scratch. And so I knew I would have the tax stream revenue coming in while I went about the business. Me and my son went about the business of building the financial advisory uh, side of the business. That was the plan. That was the grand plan. Um, Lo and behold, shortly after that, H&R Block sold off the financial advisory part of the business, and so there I was left with the tax business and the tax business only. And I started in '03 and learned the business, and here I am, 22 years later, with 14 stores across North Carolina and Virginia, and with the experience also of having seen the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to helping people with their taxes. We do thousands of tax returns every year, and a lot of those folk, we see the same folk year in and year out. So we do have a front seat to a lot of how people go about um, doing retirement. And I can almost tell you based on what people have, how they're going to end up.
Mm,
And it's just for our community, it's not a pretty sight. And for some other communities, they do things totally different and they end up in a totally different outcome. And you can just almost predict based on what people do with their nest egg as to what the outcome is going to be in their retirement. So I wanted to fill the gap there and help people to understand, where we are, what our history has been, and why we are where we are, and how to get to a better place, a more secure and a stronger foundation than where we are at this point in time. Right now, Mark, is every generation has to start over,
yes,
but it doesn't have to be that way.
it does. You're so right. You're so right, and it's incredible that the H&R Block financial taxes business ownership path has shown you something that you were probably feeling on the inside. And so,
Hmm.
but I wanted to ask you said you received a package. Are you talking about a severance package
A
from your
severance package,
so,
yes.
so you received a severance package. Why did you not go back into just finding another job instead of using what triggered there? You used the money to start and buy a business instead of just saying, "Let me ride this out. Let me go on vacation. Let me go on a couple cruise because I deserve it." And go back to the workforce in a 9 to 5 job. What was the mindset shift there?
Um, I'm really not cut out for I'm not cut out for the rat race. Yeah, to be quite honest with you.
That's honest.
And I figured that out, working in that environment. Don't get me wrong, I learned a lot while working in corporate America, and if I had it to do over again, I would do it the same way. And I learned a lot about working in corporate America. And and I just took what I learned in corporate America and scaled it. I was like, look, if I can run an operation with, multi-unit operation inside of corporate America, there's nothing that says I can't do that outside of corporate America and for myself. And so that was the path I took. And there was an interesting book that I read along the way, that a mission critical book, I would say, that that I think everybody who's thinking about making that transition ought to read before they make the transition. It's the E Myth by Michael Gerber. You may have
Mm,
heard of that. You may have read it before, but
yes, sir.
it is the entrepreneurial myth by Michael Gerber. And a lot of the principles that are in that book will will guide you to a blueprint that will allow you to build an enterprise that can work for you, and an enterprise that you can work on and not necessarily in, to generate the kind of income and lifestyle that you really want to have.
I love that. I forgot to mention, y'all, a true heart of gold. This man is a giver. You can sense it, you can feel it, you can hear the passion, right? Because one thing with what he does is he gets to see the inside scoop. Nothing speaks louder to what Mr. Wilson just spoke about earlier, and what he mentioned earlier is that digging into someone's finances shows you someone who someone really is, what they prioritize, what is important to them, what's significant to them, where they come, even where they come from, and where you're potentially trying to go. Right? If you tell me you're trying to buy a house and I'm doing your finances may not say that. And so
And,
the inner workings of what you do, Mr. Wilson, is profound. It shows you insight to people.
It does, and like I said earlier, we have a front row seat to a lot of things financial. And if you oftentimes if you know where people are spending their money, then you know where their heart is, as well. Um, but a lot of times I find that people are being misled.
Mm.
Um, and I won't say it's their fault, but there is the opportunity to educate yourself to take a different path. But if we don't know any better, then we're not going to do any better.
How did you find out about franchising? Did someone show you or tell you, or did you know about it before leaving corporate America?
Nobody told me about it. Nobody, yeah, I just kind of did the research, myself and figured it out. When I had the conversation with my wife is that I was leaving corporate America and starting my own business. She looked at me like I had three eyes in my head. She's a lifelong educator, and that's a career from start to finish. She's currently principal of an elementary school. But back then, she was a teacher, um, and she's conservative, and I'm the risk taker, and that's a good mix for the two of us. She tends to kind of point out all the things that could go wrong in a situation, and I tend to point out all the things that could go right in a situation. So when we put it all down together on the table, we can make some pretty heady decisions, with all the information.
And that's good. And that's a
Yeah,
good balance, like you said. That's a
yeah,
really good balance because it keeps you from diving all in, right?
absolutely, absolutely.
As the risk taker of the marriage.
Yes,
And and her on the flip side, because she keeps that balance going, and you keep the balance of, let's, what else can we do, right?
yeah,
Continuous innovation, continuous change, and like you said, that's a lifelong career.
yeah,
But honey, what else is next? Right? The pioneer. Sometimes it takes an individual like yourself to strike out and strike off of the beaten path that everybody else get a 9 to 5, get a 9 to 5, get a, well, no, there's this other path that
yeah,
no one else sees, and that's
yeah,
you.
yeah. I tend to think more about the future than I do the present or the past, but I do recognize and understand that the past, knowing your past, your history is important. But I spend a lot of time in the future. That's
Absolutely.
just my mindset.
In your experience, because you get to help businesses and other entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
many entrepreneurs fail financially. What makes the difference between failure and lasting success that you have seen, that is killing businesses? And outside of COVID-19, right? COVID
Yeah,
19 was a hit and miss. That was unexpected. We couldn't have planned for that any better than originally planned. But what is a common theme? 22 years, you've seen many um life events, COVID-19's, pandemics, real estate crashes. You've seen a lot. You have a
yeah,
lot of wisdom. So
yeah.
what is a
You know, it,
consistent theme? Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. Anytime I talk to a banker, as a black man, um, the first question to me is, "How long have you been in business?"
Yes, sir.
That's always their first question. Because if you hadn't been in business at least 5 years, you're not going to make it. And that's what they're thinking is that, oh, you haven't been in business long enough, you're not going to make it. And without fault, every banker that I've talked to, black, white, anybody, that's the first question. How long have you been in business? So nobody really expects us to win. Um, but as I say in the book, you can make a living by getting an education, but if you want to do really well, you got to self educate yourself. And you gotta be willing to dive in and peel back the onion and evaluate some things for yourself and figure some things out on your own and go for it. If you just stay the status quo and do what everybody else is doing and take the same result that everybody else seems to be okay with, then yeah, you're not going to be able to just kind of forge a path for yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Huge. I love this. I love this. We just made it over the tax hump, right? Tax season is closed. Um, tax season is finally over. And I wanted to ask a question in regards to tax strategy, right?
Hmm.
22
Hmm.
years, lots of wisdom. What are some key tax strategies that individuals and business owners should be using to maximize wealth?
That's a great question. I'll start with the businesses first. Most African American businesses are Schedule C, sole proprietor. Um, that's the easiest business to set up if you're going into business. 93% of African American businesses are formed that way. Um, but
Is that the wrong way?
that's the wrong way. It
Ooh.
well, let me put it to you this way. It's a good way to get started,
Uh-huh.
but when you start making money, you need to upscale the entity that you're using, the vehicle you're using, as an entity. The sole proprietor is the highest tax entity type that you can be involved in. And while you're not making a lot of money, it is the easiest way, it's the less expensive way to get started. But once you start making some serious money, you need to pivot to an S corp, um, because that allows you to control how much of your money is going to be taxed from a self-employment standpoint. Sole proprietor, any profit that you make, 100% of it is subject to the self-employment tax, the Social Security tax, the FICA tax, or whatever. But if you convert to a S corporation, let's say you make $100,000 in profit, if through a S corp, $100,000 is subject to the 15.6% self-employment tax. But if you convert it to an S corp, you can pay yourself through the W-2 process for $60,000, and that part is subject to the SE tax or the self-employment tax. But you can pay yourself a dividend for the other 40,000 and
Mm.
only be subject to the income tax. And that's important. That's important. You can save almost $6,000 per $100,000 of income. And you just think about these young black athletes who are getting this NIL money, and how are they structuring that money? They get a 1099 from the university or for whoever they're getting the money from. And guess what? All of that money is subject to when you do it like a 1099, everything you collect is subject to the self-employment tax. So it's important for these young guys, these young athletes, to structure themselves as an S corp and have that money flow into the S corp, and structure to pay themselves a salary and reduce their tax bill by setting it themselves up as an S corp.
So let me get it straight. I wanna repeat this so I can get it right, and because I want to learn this. That's the beauty of podcasting, y'all. You get to you get to be selfish. Um, so set up. So initially, it's okay in the beginning when I'm not making too much money. You know, that statistic, 90% of businesses start off with the self-employment. But as
Right.
income grows, as revenue grows, I need to pivot and start operating from an S Corp standpoint, and now pay myself a wage
Right.
on a
On the income.
reasonable, on the income, on a reasonable wage. So don't sit
Right.
there and um say, "Oh, I only made $1." all
Yeah, yeah,
year,
yeah, yeah.
dude, right?
The flip side, you want to pay yourself a reasonable wage because you want to pay into Social Security, not because you want something to be there from a Social Security standpoint somewhere down the road. So you don't want to cheat yourself in that way, but at the same time, you don't want to pay a tax on every dollar if you don't have to.
And plus, not every dollar is actually going in your pocket, right?
Exactly,
Because
exactly.
as an employee, right, you're getting your way and you're paying out to taxes, and the corporation is paying out to taxes as far part of owning you. But what was that dividend piece? So dividends is taxed less, or it's a separate?
Dividends just aren't taxed with the SE tax. So
Okay,
you avoid the SE tax. Let's say if you got $100,000 in profit, you might have had $150,000 in income. You had $50,000 worth of expenses. Now you're sitting with $100,000 in profit, and you can pay yourself 60% of that through the W-2 process, which is subject to income tax as well as the self-employment tax. And you can take the other 40,000 and just have it be move it from the business account to your personal account or whatever however you want to do that, and be subject to paying just the income tax on that portion of it. And that will save you about $6,200 on a per $100,000 in income.
whew, that's a lot of money. That is a lot.
And so here's how that worked against us, even during COVID. Um, in COVID, they put forth these programs to get money into the business owners' hands as quickly as they possibly could. There was a PPP program, then there was the employee retention programs, and all of these
Stimulus,
programs, yeah, all of these stimulus packages, all of these programs centered around what? The W-2 process.
true.
And so if you're a business and didn't have a W-2 process, then you weren't going to be subject to being able to get the employee retention credit. Um, and as I said earlier, 93% of the African American businesses are sole proprietors, Schedule C. So they were locked out. They were locked out of this opportunity to try to survive by being able to reasonably gain access to some of this stimulus money to keep your business afloat.
Any thoughts on why you think they did that? Why not give benefits or stimulus to self-employed or 1099s? Why do you any thoughts that you have as to why they did that?
Well, they were trying to do something really quickly, and they were trying to do something that wasn't going to be that you couldn't abuse. And the W-2 process is pretty straightforward. You pay into it, you know how much is there. Anybody can come to the table and say, I have a sole proprietor. I was doing a babysitting. I made, $200,000 in babysitting fees. And, whether they did or not, you can make that claim and get those funds. So I understand why that was, they did it the way they did it because if you really wanted, there was a lot of fraud even in the way that they did it.
Right.
And if you really want to see some fraud, if you open it up to that sole proprietor process, even more so than they actually did, that would have been just a nightmarish mess from a government standpoint to manage. So I understand that. Um, but at the same time, you need to be mindful of the types of entities that you're getting yourself involved in.
Absolutely. That's really good insight, really good wisdom. I want you to share, since we're talking about COVID-19 and tax laws. That year alone was ridiculous. I think the tax law was changing almost like it was changing like that because they were implement the IRS was implementing new strategies, new systems, new checks and balances, right? Because
Yeah,
they, like you said, they threw out a lot of money really fast, but
right.
then there's no checks and balances to make sure people are actually using the money for what they said it was. Again, stimulus, and they were rolling out policy. I think that was a very stressful tax year, as
Yeah,
far as
it was a dangerous time. It was a dangerous time for capitalism. and it was a dangerous time for the world in general. Um,
How has changes in the tax law complexity shaped your franchise's profitability over time? Did you have to pivot at all? Did you have to um operate virtually? Where was H&R Block operating virtually versus seeing clients in person as like the traditional business model? What how has that affected you?
yeah, fortunately for us, we had just gotten on the road to virtual tools and virtual technology. Thankfully,
Mhm.
the infrastructure was in place. Now, we were slow to adopt it, just because we were on a normal path doing normal things. But once COVID hit, and we were fortunate enough to have the infrastructure in place to do things in a virtual mode, the adoption rate picked up almost instantly. So we could actually have a client upload their documents. We could do their return. The tax pros could work remotely. They could work in the office, wherever. We could have a video chat with them. That we could review the tax return with them. They could pay for it electronically, and we could e-file it and not ever uh, come face to face. So we were fortunate in that way. Whereas we were able to kind of pivot and keep moving, whereas a lot of the CPAs and the mom and pops just kind of shuttered. They shut down just for the sake of saving their lives.
That's so true. So true. What are some harsh realities about franchise ownership? I'm speaking. I'm asking this question for the person who's looking at you. You're a black man in
Mhm.
America, a business owner, and that future young leader who's scared. Right. That's a big move, sir. That's a big move to do to buy a business. Right. What are some things that ownership that you wish you knew when owning a business, owning a franchise that no one told you?
I'll tell you something really funny
Okay.
to start with. One of the things I learned early on in being in business is you got to wear a lot of hats. You early on, you got to wear all the hats.
Mm,
And so I one of the early mistakes I made was, I'd take the trash out. At the end of the day, I'd gather up the trash and you take it to the dumpster.
right.
And one of those in those early days, I had the money bag and the trash bag, going to the dumpster.
Oh no.
And yeah, you know where this is going.
Oh no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So that's a it's a funny story now. Fortunately for me, there wasn't a whole lot of money in the money bag, but I've learned that when you go to the dumpster, only take trash with you.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, don't take anything else with you except the trash, and that's been something that has stuck with me from the very beginning. But seriously though, I think you want to make sure you're capitalized the right way as you get started. Fortunately for me, I had the foundation. My wife was still working. She had the health care and all of that I could lean into. Um, and we had the severance that we could buy the business with. It was an existing franchise that I bought, so there was a book of business, and I I I was fortunate enough to start the business in such a way that to where, and as I said earlier, I my focus was to work on the business and to grow the business and to make it better, but not to be the one who's sitting down and writing the tax returns. Um, because if you get into that mode in your business, then you're going to be um, hindered, so to speak,
Mm.
as to how much you can grow your business. If your business is dependent on what you can do with your two hands, you're already in trouble. You're
So,
already in trouble.
so this is good. I want to dig a little bit deeper with what you're saying, right? From a tax perspective and from a business owner, it is unwise for a business owner to stick in to work in their business and be at the desk and be on the ground floor. Why? Can you explain why, please?
because you can't build an enterprise. You can have a self-employment opportunity, but you can't have an enterprise. And the enterprise is about creating an entity, a business that can generate income without your two hands being on the plow, so to speak.
Yeah.
So you need to hire people, you need to train and develop, you need to make sure that all of the marketing is in place. You want to make sure that you're doing the things to drive business in, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you've got people inside the business that can handle that business when it does come in the door. And so, if you're going to build an enterprise, one that will generate income, um, that doesn't require you to be the one generating the income, then that's what you have to do. You have to back away from being the primary person who knows and does everything, to being to embrace the idea of hiring a team and empowering that team to do the work that needs to be done in order to create an enterprise. I mean, it's corporate America on a small scale, but it's an enterprise nonetheless.
What's the first thing you did after you bought you and your wife bought the franchise? Was it hiring? Was it marketing? Was it advertising? Where should someone
So
spend their first dollars, you think?
so for fortunately for me, with the H&R Block franchise, I bought an existing business. The employees were already in place. Um, Marketing and franchising, I just had to plug into that, and there was a portal where I could go and choose what marketing I wanted to put in the local papers or however I wanted to do it. So from a franchising standpoint, that was great. I didn't have to create anything. It was all there. I just had to plug into it and deploy it.
I love
So that was a big plus from a franchising standpoint.
I love that. Told y'all, Mr. Wilson here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, spilling the tea, educating and giving back and sharing how he did it, how he's spilling. And you don't get this, y'all. You don't get the significance of what Mr. Wilson is sharing. It's very profound because what's the statistic? Many businesses fail within the first 5 years. And so he's sharing key insights and key wisdoms. But I can't tell you, Mr. Wilson, how many times my barber,
Hmm.
I love the man to death, but he still to this day works in his business,
Yes,
and
yes.
he's still an employee. And now he is doing what you taught. He is doing I'm getting a wage.
Hmm.
Unlike typically stylists, salon owners, they typically are 1099, so they're self-employed, and they want to deal with cash and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
There's
but
a
he
running joke about that industry is they show a lot of money when it's time to buy a house, and then they don't show any money any other time, any other time,
I make
any other time.
$25,000. That's it. That's
Yeah,
so true. That's
that
so
that's that's what you see from my perspective when you sit in my seat. That's what it looks like. But
absolutely.
yeah.
But it's so profound, and like he's saying, y'all, step out of the business. The business will never grow to its optimum efficiency if you're still in the trenches, right? Hire
Yeah.
correctly. Now, again, Mr. Wilson had the privilege and the benefit of buying into a team, an existing port. There was no renovation cost. He didn't have to renovate a site. He bought an existing practice that was already running and operating. And so that's another point. Buying businesses. We got to get too many of us, I think, selfishly want to start businesses from scratch.
Hmm.
I think for one reason. One, because we think we're going to make more money by doing so if we started from scratch. And to some points, you do. But the other thing you miss is mentorship. You miss out on the opportunity of mentorship and guidance for a structured, already established business. The third thing that I hate to see is I think people try and start from scratch because they
Yeah.
want to cut out the middleman, right? They
Yeah.
want they
Yeah.
want to remove the experts? How many people do their taxes themselves instead of hiring an H&R Block professional? Well, I don't
Yeah.
want to pay Mr. Wilson or his team any money. I'll just do it myself.
Right. Right.
You're missing out, right?
Yeah. One of my longtime sayings is that the lack of tax law knowledge is expensive. It's
Mm,
expensive. If you don't understand the tax laws, then you're subject to making some expensive mistakes.
absolutely, absolutely. We are going. Speaking of mistakes, we are going to go to a quick commercial break. We have to pay some bills, y'all. We got to pay our sponsors. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a reliable professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
Hey guys, this is your boy Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And we are here in Patrick Henry Mall, Newport News, Virginia. We're actually here for something unique just inside. Something new, brand new that we want to explore together. You guys ready? All right, here we go. Here we go. Hey, boss. Heard you were an athlete, man. See you at the mall every day. We are at Patrick Henry Mall, living up, and we are talking about CBD. But first off, the normal thing that we all deal with is joint pain, back pain, suffer from everything.
Neck pain too.
Neck pain? You got some neck pain?
All the time, man. I'm getting up in age, you know what I'm saying? We're not young no more.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Bruh, CBD helps with that exact same thing. Neck pain, back pain, joint pain, all the pains, everywhere pain, right? And so that's what CBD does. That's what we're here to help you and me do. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
All right.
CBD is one of the most powerful cannabinoids because all it's focused on is the health and wellness. We're talking helping people with anxiety, depression, insomnia, sleep deprivation, all provided. CBD works with the natural mechanics of your body without the crazy side effects of Western medicine. So these products are here to actually align your body and get it back right so we can actually have a better quality of life. And that's what CBD does. To the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And we have the incredible Mr. Chris Wilson spilling the tea on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, giving insight into tax strategy and legacy building, franchise ownership. We have a 22-year veteran on the show of the H&R Block franchise owner. Now, 14 locations and going strong and going big. And here to give us some strategy, some mindset shifts, and help us build a future worthy of our name. And so you can find him today on Gentleman Style Podcast. We are on iHeartRadio, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Facebook business page, LinkedIn, Ghana Radio, and even Audible. Anywhere you get your podcast, he is here today spilling the tea. Mr. Wilson, I want to talk about the book. You wrote the book on a lifetime of how to make your nest egg last a lifetime. What can my audience expect from this book? Why did you write the book?
Okay, so why I wrote the book first, like I said, for 22 years we've had the front row seat to see, financial makeups for our community. and for other communities as well. And we've had the opportunity to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And for the African American community, what what struck me is that first of all, there are lots of material out there on how to build a nest egg. You can find a book anywhere on that subject of strategies for making your how to grow your nest egg. But once you actually have the nest egg, then there ends where the gap is. How do you deploy it in such a way that it will sustain you in your retirement years, and that it can also be used as a legacy once you've passed away? Um, so often in our community, you hear people talk about, well, I'm on a fixed income. And every time I hear those words coming from an African American, it just piques my interest. And I was like, okay, why are you on fixed income? Because you don't have to be.
Mm.
And what I've learned is that one of the things that we use in our retirement is the annuity product. And so many African Americans are just taken in by this sales industry around the annuity product. And I get it. I understand, it's a guaranteed income for life. That's how they sell it. And you don't have to worry about the volatility of the market because that's scary and it's uncertain. But what they're not being told, or what they don't understand, is that once you lock in on a monthly stipend in exchange for your nest egg, um, now you've locked in, and your purchasing power is going to be subject to decline 5, 10, 15 years into retirement. And that's if you're lucky to live 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years, however long you live in retirement. Purchasing power is going to erode, and you're going to have to get creative about how you make ends meet. And if you don't live a long time in retirement, then you've given up your nest egg, and the insurance company, once you pass away, it's the property of the insurance company. Now,
Mm.
there are some annuities you can structure in different ways, but by and large, what we're seeing in the tax office are those annuities that come in year in and year out, the retirement income. The number doesn't change from year to year. And we all know that all of the price and the cost around everything is going up year over year. And so we need to change that. We as a community need to change that. And I've always known this was a problem, but nobody wants to talk about a problem unless they have a solution. And so I finally got to the point to where I have a solution that I could put forth. And I did so in the form of how to make your nest egg last a lifetime. And it's really targeted for the African American community. It starts it's written with the beginner in mind. And it's broken down. We actually break things down into simple terms, and we talk about it simplistically. Um, and just to kind of set the mindset for change, because nobody's coming to save us, Marcus.
Sure.
And so we have to be about the business of making some changes in our own community, and doing things differently, and creating a path that we can not only thrive, survive retirement, but we can thrive in our golden years. And then we can leave a legacy for the next generation. As I said earlier, every generation has to start over.
For sure.
And if we can start leaving a legacy, that will change. We're a creative community. We're probably the most creative community on the face of the earth. But if you don't have any capital to bring it bring it into being, then that's where we get stuck. That's where we get
Absolutely.
stuck as a community.
Absolutely. The reason why what he's talking about, y'all, the reason why this is very profound and a book like this is necessary in the African American community because the days of a pension are gone, right? The
Yes.
days of a pension are long gone, and that was replaced with a 401k and a match. But the heartbreaking reality is we're not putting away enough in order for that match or that 401k to make a difference substantially in our lives when we retire, right? And it's heartbreaking to me when I was in the financial planning space in encountering. I remember one lady, single individual, raised her son, was and she had worked, I think, like 30 something years at the VA.
Hmm.
She was a GS 13, 12, very high up there. And she was paying into the 401k that the VA had offered
Hmm.
with the match.
Right.
And she had only accumulated, they had only accumulated, she had only saved up like $50,000. And that's
Wow.
it. 30
Yeah.
plus years working at the VA, high GS 12, lost it all. And not lost it all, but hadn't contributed enough to make her retirement worthwhile. And now in her later years, she's now going on 70, now realizing that she could never stop working. She has to continue to work because what she has put away for a nest egg isn't enough money.
Yeah. What gives you the greatest opportunity to thrive in retirement is number one, if you have a pension, and as you said, those are becoming fewer and far between. Um, if you get Social Security, and if you have something saved away in the form of a nest egg through the 401k or the 403b, or depending on where you are and who you work for. If you have those three legs, that gives you the greatest chance of being having a successful retirement, at least from a financial standpoint. Um, but what we do inside of these savings accounts matters. And first of all, you've got to participate, and secondly, you got to do it, and you got to invest the right way. So that's two strikes. If you miss those two strikes, then you're subject to being in the position that you just explained.
Yeah. It's so true. So true. This is huge, 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 huge. And so you wrote the book to serve that need in the African American community, and that is big, and that is absolutely necessary. Where can people get and purchase the book?
So the book is available on Amazon. It is in hard copy, paperback, ebook, and audio. So whatever your pleasure is for consuming knowledge, there it is. You can get it all on Amazon, and it's on how to make your nest egg last a lifetime.
Is it a
Now,
big read? Is it? Go ahead. Sorry.
no, it's not a big read. It is 5 short chapters. It is 174 pages, I believe it is. 174 pages. And you don't have to read it from front to back. You can just go right to the section that speaks to you, read that chapter, come back later, read the other chapters. And my experience been so far is it's actually up to bestseller. It made bestseller on Amazon so far. And so, yeah, you can consume it and use it as a tool. Come back to it. It talks about everything from how to open a brokerage account until you know the idea of starting an investment club. And the reason I talk about investment clubs is because I think that is what our community needs to do, particularly the younger generations, is to form these clubs. Even in retirement, retirement community, it's never too late to start uh, uh, an investment club. Investment clubs are all about learning,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's about investing and making some money and growing it. But the one of the main things you're going to get out of an investment club is knowing, learning, and understanding how to invest. You're going to be investing your money, your hard-earned money. It's not going to be It's going to be a real life situation. It's not going to be theory. You're going to be making the choices. You're going to be calling the shots as to what you invest in, and then holding on to that, see how it pans out, adding some new securities. So yeah, I'm encouraging more people to start investment clubs now. And the more time you spend in that investment club, the better prepared you're going to be when you get to the end of the road, a retirement road, and you have a nest egg, and you're more qualified to know how to deploy it than you would be at this point, having never had any experience about understanding investments. And now you got to make a decision about how you make your nest egg work for you for the entirety of the rest of your life, not to mention to be able to leave a legacy for those who your loved ones that you leave behind.
What is can you give a rundown of investment club, how it works, how to why what's the power in it? What's an investment club? And
Yeah, so an investment club can be anywhere from 8 to 12 people, ideally, a group of people, and it's you might choose people in your community that you enjoy spending time with, um, and form a club. Collectively come together. Let's say you each decide to put in $100 a month, and you're in your operating agreement. You agree to invest in equities.
Mhm.
And so each month you come together. You can come together virtually, or in person, however you want to do it, and make the decisions collectively about what you're going to invest that money in, each month. So I tell people who are just getting started in investing is, you're participating in capitalism already. When you wake up in the morning, you use a toothpaste, you use coffee, you drive a vehicle, you put on clothes. All of those are investment decisions that can be made. You can make the choice to invest in Procter and Gamble, or the companies where you buy your groceries, or the car brand that you drive, and you like a lot. So you can start out initially by investing in things that you buy and use in your day-to-day life, and invest in those, and hold on to them, see how it works out, see which ones are paying dividends, which ones are growing, increasing in value, and which ones are going down, and you learn from why did that stock go down and what happened. And so everything that happens is a learning opportunity, and you're going to make some mistakes in an investment club, but you're going to make your mistakes early on while you don't have a whole lot of money at risk.
Mhm.
And as your knowledge grows, so is your portfolio growing along with you, and right up until the end of retirement. And by the time you've spent 10 or 15 years in an investment club, you're pretty savvy about what types of investments make good sense for you to invest in, how the market really works, and what you should or should not do when it comes to investing in the stock market.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is good. I love this. This is why I love this show. We get to dive deep, and we get to share, and we get to give back. Mr. Wilson, you have shared so many nuggets, so much insight this show, and so much wisdom. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for making time. Thank you for sharing space with us here on Gentleman Style Podcast Show. If you had one last nugget, any last encouraging words to that young girl, that young boy in the audience whose back is against the wall and they are on the fence on how to move, how to make the next decision in their life, what would you say to them right now?
I would say to them, open a brokerage account. A savings account, it costs you money. If you don't have the money in there, they'll charge you a fee for having a savings account. But guess what? Nobody charges you to have a brokerage account. They're free. You can go to any brokerage company, go to your bank, and say, I want to open a brokerage account. Open a brokerage account. If you don't know how to do that, there's a section in the book that will walk you through how to do that. Open a brokerage account and start buying the S&P 500.
There you go. There you go. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Thank you for making time again today. This has been phenomenal conversation. And I appreciate you. How can people connect with you? How can people find you and get on board to what you're doing?
I have a website at ChristopherAWilson.com. You can go there, and that's where we help people get investment clubs going. If you've got a group of people that you're ready to get going, set up an appointment, and I can help guide you through that process. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm there. I don't have a lot of the other social medias. I choose not to spend my time on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those other things. But that has given me the opportunity to be able to write a book. So
Absolutely.
There you go.
There you go. Connect, y'all. Connect. Like we end every show, we gotta let this incredible man go. But like we end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, signing off. Love you guys. Bye.